Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching. Today we're stepping straight into the dark corner of a monster movie with a terrifying new build. It's loaded with detail and just creepy enough to make you wonder what's lurking in the shadows after the lights go out. So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's get started. Like every build I make, I always start off with a quick thumbnail sketch to capture the overall design and refine the basic shapes. Once I'm happy with the concept, I refine that rough sketch into a full-color illustration. This is where the build really starts to take form. I use the illustration to experiment with colors, establish proportions and dimensions, and decide which materials will work best for different parts of the project. Taking the time to plan everything out on paper helps prevent surprises later on and gives me a clear roadmap to follow throughout the build. Here are all the materials I'll be using for this build. A pair of oversized black rubber gloves for the creature's hands. 1 1/4 inch foam backer rod for sculpting the claws. 2-inch wide black Gorilla duct tape. And a bag of 1/2 inch black hot melt glue sticks. I'll start by cutting the tips off each finger of the gloves. It might seem a little strange now, but you'll see why I chose this approach later in the build. Next, I'll measure, mark, and cut 10 5-inch pieces of backer rod to sculpt the claws. To give the claws a more menacing look, I start by cutting the foam at an angle 3 inches away from one of the ends to form a curved, sharp point. I then work my way around the entire piece, carefully trimming and shaping the foam until the claw begins to take shape. A few small adjustments here and there help refine the overall profile, and I continue sculpting until I'm satisfied with the final result. Remember when I trimmed the tips off the gloves? Well, now I'm cutting a groove around the foam so that when it's inserted through the glove, it snaps into place and locks securely in position. All that's left to do now is trim about 1 inch off the back, and the first claw is finally finished. 1 down, 9 more to go. At least the rest should go a little faster now. I hope.
Many hours later.
And here they are, all 10 claws, along with a handful of wooden skewers. To seal the foam for spray painting, I'll use Mod Podge. First, I insert a wooden skewer into the base of each foam piece to use as a handle. Then I dip the entire claw into the bottle, making sure it's completely coated. After that, I slowly lift it out and let any excess Mod Podge drip back into the bottle before setting it aside to dry. Once all the claws have been coated, here's what they look like hanging out to dry. I'll set them aside to fully cure in the hot Florida sun, where they'll probably bake faster than I will.
Several days later.
Well, that took longer than expected. After almost a week and several coats of Mod Podge, here's what they look like. To give the appearance of scales on the gloves, I tear a strip of Gorilla Tape by puncturing it with my X-Acto knife, then ripping off a section so it leaves rough edges. I repeat this 2 more times, ending up with 4 pieces of scales ready to be applied to the glove, adding that organic texture.
Many unbearable hours later.
After several hours of cutting and tearing tape, I've got 1 full sheet done, enough to cover half a glove. I start by laying down a piece of tape on the glove, then another slightly overlapping the last. Layer by layer, I build it up. Each overlap helps hide the seams, creating a more consistent, scale-like texture. I keep working across the glove, piece by piece, keeping everything lined up as I go. Small adjustments here and there help maintain an organic pattern. Once it looks even and I'm happy with the result, I move on to the other glove.
2 hours later.
And here they are, all the scales finally in place. Next, I power up my glue gun and insert a black glue stick. Once it's ready to go, I apply a thin strand of hot melt glue in a zigzag pattern to mimic bulging veins across the surface. I work my way over the entire piece, letting the lines weave and cross naturally. This helps break up the scales even further, adding another layer of texture and depth and really pushing the organic, almost living look of the creature's hands. It ties everything together and enhances the overall effect.
346 minutes later.
After both pieces are finished with the hot melt vein treatment, here's what they look like. With the last one in place, it's time to hide the seams. And here's the final result: 10 fingers, fully clawed and ready for action. Off camera, I pre-cut 10 strips of Gorilla Tape to hide the seams around each claw. I remove one strip of tape and start at the bottom of the joint, where it's least visible. From there, I slowly wrap it around the seam, carefully working my way upward and keeping steady tension as I go. I make sure each pass slightly overlaps the previous section so everything blends together cleanly and the surface stays consistent. This gradual layering helps smooth out the transition, locking everything in place and completely hiding the seam once it's finished. And there you have it, the claws fully attached to each hand. To hide the finger seam even further, I carry the vein detail from the fingers down into each claw, adding more beads of hot melt glue as I go. This keeps the texture consistent and helps everything blend into one organic, seamless piece. With everything in place, all the details are complete. Next up is priming and finishing. As a primer coat, I'll spray the entire surface with Krylon satin brick paint and primer for better paint adhesion. I'll start off by applying several light coats, gradually building up coverage instead of trying to cover everything at once. This helps prevent runs, drips, and heavy buildup in the textured areas. As each coat flashes off, I apply another, slowly building a uniform finish while making sure all the scales, veins, and other details remain crisp and visible.
3 days later.
To really bring the hands to life, I'll add Krylon Matte Vintage Rose. Layering the color this way helps emphasize the contours of the fingers, knuckles, and claws, adding depth and character to the overall piece.
1 week later.
Next, I'll apply Tamiya's Flat Flesh to add depth and form. Once the highlights are in place, I lightly mist the rest of the hand from a distance to blend the shading smoothly with the base color.
1 eternity later.
After what felt like an eternity waiting for the paint to dry, our monster hands are finally ready for their manicure. Using a mixture of Vallejo black, red, and yellow paints shown here, I'll start adding color to the claws. I start off by pouring all 3 colors into a small paint palette, keeping them separate so I can easily control the mix and adjust the tones as needed throughout the painting process. With the colors prepared, I begin by applying black acrylic paint, where the claw meets the finger, carefully working around all the raised vein details. This darker color establishes the base tone and creates a natural shadow effect at the transition point. Taking my time around the textured areas helps preserve all the detail while providing a solid foundation for the additional colors that will be layered on top. This is followed by a touch of red, which I blend into the black to create a rich, dark burgundy tone and a smooth transition between the colors. As the final yellow color is applied, I blend it into the red to create a smooth, seamless transition. This is going to take a long time.
1 million, zillion, jillion, dillion, cotillion times later.
At last, all 10 claws are complete. What started as simple pieces of foam backer rod has been transformed into something that looks right at home on a classic movie monster. The layered colors, subtle shading, and hand-painted details help bring each one to life, giving them a worn, natural appearance. With the painting finished, the claws finally have the look and personality I was aiming for from the very beginning. Now I return to the raised vein details that run into them. Using a muted green tone, I start with a slightly stronger application near the base of each claw, then gradually fade it as I work back into the finger. The goal isn't to make the veins stand out too much, but just enough to break up the flesh tones and add a bit of realism. This subtle variation helps the details feel more natural and better integrated into the overall hand. Once that step is complete, I take the same muted green tone, and using the tip of my finger, I lightly drag it across the raised veins, letting the color catch only on the high points. This helps break up the surrounding flesh tones and subtly emphasizes the texture without overpowering the base colors. The result is a more layered, natural look, where the veins feel integrated into the surface rather than painted on top of it. To intentionally discolor the hands, I use a watered-down burgundy acrylic and lightly spray it across the surface, creating a subtle speckled finish. This helps add blemishes, uneven coloration, and the appearance of aged, weathered skin. I build up the effect gradually, focusing on creating natural variation rather than a uniform color. Once I'm satisfied with the results, I repeat the same process on the opposite side of the hands. And there you have it, my friends, my take on classic horror movie monster hands. The goal was to push that worn, organic, slightly unnatural look while still keeping it wearable and functional. I think it lands right in that sweet spot between costume piece and creature prop. This would look incredible paired with just about any Halloween costume or horror cosplay, especially under low lighting where all the texture and detail really come alive. If you enjoyed today's build, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, share, and comment below. If you have any ideas you'd like to see me build, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback. To help support the channel, please check out my Etsy store at toyandpropmasters.etsy.com, where you'll find something for everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next build.